Just make this a part of the interview, whatever.
Yeah. Let's throw this on. Hey there, y'all.
What's up, everybody?
All right. We have completed. I'm actually kind of sad.
Why?
Because we're done. Because this is the first event back. But so we just finished the finals, and all that's left is partying and celebrating.
Yeah.
But that was an absolutely incredible, even though it was only 6 games, an absolutely incredible event. So just to start it off, what is your immediate kind of reaction to being back with the fans in a large venue and all of that stuff? All that comes with it.
It was mind-blowing. I'm sure that the bitter part of it is going to hit me later. I'm probably still riding a bit more of the adrenaline and the high of being in an arena for the past couple days and meeting tons of incredible fans. But sadly, again, I have to steal a word from Jat that he used at the end of the broadcast. He's a bright fellow. Refreshed is, I think, the best way to put it. Because I think for so many of us, especially those of us who have been doing it for a really long time, I mean, the things we love about the LCS and League of Legends, there are some of those things were absent over the last couple of years, right? And I think for a number of us, we didn't really realize, maybe at the time before the pandemic, maybe took for granted the value that some of these things held in our lives. Don't get me wrong. I love, I love my job and I love every moment, but those moments build towards something specific, and we've been robbed of that something specific for a few years. And so there is some kind of sweet, release of like, oh my God, for 2.5 years, we've not been able to do this. So for me to be able to open a show and behind me to have thousands of people just start roaring for the sake of going live, it's like, wow. It's an incredible feeling. I'm still kind of trying to sit in it and let it wash over me, but it was refreshing to say the least.
Yeah, I would agree. I had a ton of fun. It was fun kind of getting back into having to learn, I need to start timing things out differently, and I'm going to get stopped by like random people and like people that I haven't seen in years and years, or people that I've followed on Twitter for however long. So you're talking about usually things will build up, and then we have the something specific, which is the big events. This year was a lot like that, but it was building up from a lot lower, because when we started, when we did lock-in and the first week of LCS, everything, for us at least, was still remote. Yeah. And for a lot of the teams, it was remote for the first couple of weeks. And then press started coming in. And then more people started coming in, and then we get fans, and then we get the big
playoffs.
venue.
Playoffs was when we made the switch to having a live audience, which felt good. But yeah, there really was. It was this slow build, and again, that might just be contributing to this idea that like, it feels that much greater because of how down we were. I think that incremental, aspect of it was necessary and was good. It was the right way to do it, right? For the sake of doing it, doing it right, doing it safely. But thank God we're here. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like at this end point, this was the most important thing. So thank God we got it.
So I imagine nothing at all has been decided, and I know that laws in Texas and California are different, and I know that being safe is top priority. But nothing has been announced for summer and whether or not fans will be returning. If COVID blows up again and we can't have fans, what is that going to feel like going back into an empty studio?
I don't know, man. I'll cry. It'll feel horrible. If it happens, it happens. That's the other part of it. And that's, I think, like, we all have the right to be angry that the last 2.5 years happened. But we don't have the right to be angry over the fact that because of those circumstances, things had to be the way they were. Yeah. I truly believe that Riot has done, and I can say this across multiple games because I've also worked in Valorant. I think Riot has done such a truly phenomenal job in navigating the shittiness of the COVID situation. Did we get everything right? Hell no. But take you all the way back 2.5 years ago when we had to move remote. It took us 1 week to take a fully, offline LAN show with an audience and move it to being produced across probably 100 different households in LA and other states. Like that, just think about that for a moment, the sheer magnitude of an undertaking that is. And to accomplish it in 7 days is nutty. And was it perfect? No. Did we build on it? Yes. Did it improve over time? Absolutely. To the point that it can be improved as an online, remote broadcast. And then, as soon as we could safely and confidently start moving back into, doing it the way we want to, the way it's supposed to be done, we did. So to answer your question, will I be devastated? Yes, I'm sure everyone, fan, player, coach, manager, journalist, caster alike would be devastated, if that were to happen again. And the unfortunate reality is that, yes, if that did, perhaps, again, I will rely on the people whose jobs it are to decide, how to make it work. If that's what happens, that's what happens. I'm going to hope that it doesn't. I'm going to hope that we've laid the groundwork and we've, finally crested the final, hurdle there, when it comes to this most recent challenge, in terms of producing the LCS, and that we'll have, a full arena for every single day of LCS play come summer.
Yeah. I would love that, of course. And we won't know until 50 years from now.
Exactly.
We'll just never know.
Yeah, we just won't.
Looking back at COVID then, I want to ask what was maybe one or two things that you feel like you learned over all of that kind of very stressful and frustrating experience that is actually helping the live broadcast now that you're back in person? And were there any things that were like, oh, this is actually nice? Like, was rolling out of bed kind of nice? Like, were things like that kind of nice? That's a give and a take. That's like a positive and a negative, that whole rolling out of bed thing. Because probably at first it was like, oh yes, I don't have to wake up, put myself together to go in. I can wake up, be in my PJs still, like doing my tech check, there was something kind of novel and fun about that at the beginning. It got old fast though, because I don't know, I'm just not a person who wants to work out of his own home. Like, that's not something I've ever really wanted to do, or at least not in that way, right? I think it's very different. And there is kind of this weird invasiveness, if I'm being honest, to like putting your home on display. Well, and we're here in your hotel room.
In my hotel room? Well, but see, I care less about this. This isn't my space.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's my space for another 12 hours or whatever, and then or 24 hours, and then I fly home. It's a little strange to have all your work and your life concentrated in one spot. Also, I was in a 2-bedroom apartment with a flatmate at that point. So like, my setup was also in my room. So like, that means LCS days, I basically spent 48 hours in my room because I'm sleeping, waking up, doing LCS, going back to bed, waking up, doing LCS, and it's all happening in the same room. And that can be very, very depressing. There were negatives to that. There were some novelties to that. I don't know if that really taught me anything. It definitely helped me appreciate being, again, at venues like this, or even at the LCS, even for the time that can sometimes, quote unquote, this is the wrong word, I'm still going to use it, the time that is wasted, right? It's not like we're working we have to show up at a specific time to do some work, and then we have to go get made up, or we have to go get wardrobe, and then there's some downtime, and then we have to do something else. And like, again, when you're at your house, you just play a game of TFT or something, it's, or like just watch something. You're at the office, is a little more difficult to do. But maybe where I would have had frustrations about, like 2 hours of downtime years ago, I'm like, I'll take 2 hours of downtime if it means I get to, go out and meet fans afterwards, or be in front of a crowd. So those aren't any learnings. Those are just a couple thoughts. Learnings is tough because we've had so much turnover. There was so much that changed and iterated during that time period, right? We swapped out analyst desk members multiple times. Jat left the broadcast, came back to the broadcast. Over the last 2 years, so much has changed that honestly, in a lot of ways, I feel like I've just been trying to hold on, which might be disappointing for some people to hear. But not every year is going to be a year of growth. So maybe that's what I've learned. to a degree, is like I've become a little bit more comfortable that like not every year is going to be your best year. Not that you shouldn't strive for it to be.
Sure.
But over time, I kind of became more okay with the fact that like we were doing the best we could with the circumstances we were given. But it did give me a little bit more of a drive that, hey, when we finally move back to the arena, like let's double down on restoring the LCS, to kind of that state of glory that we all feel it once had, right? Be that from a level of competitiveness, and that is one of the buckets. Be that from the level of production and the quality that we're able to produce as a broadcast, the entertainment factor, which I'll even separate a little bit, beyond just the actual quality of the broadcast. Just, are we really doing our jobs as entertainers and telling the right stories and building heroes of players? And so I think there was a bit of, maybe for all of us, like, hey, we did the best with what we had, but we can all acknowledge that what we did in the last 2 years wasn't good enough for what we want the product to be, right? And so in coming back to live, we had to have some real serious discussions, and we're still actively having these discussions, right? What do we want the LCS to be? What do we want it to be, known for? What are the things that we care most about? And you probably saw a lot of it this weekend. Like, we're going hard on the NA talent thing. And I think it's the right choice because in a weekend or in the course of a few weeks, EG grew their fan base by just probably astronomical, exponential.
10x,
yeah, it's just,
100x.
You were in that arena. And from yesterday to today, the fact that the defending champions are getting drowned out in chance. The fact that it's in the TL with Bjergsen,
Core JJ,
and then for the two individual players, all the players were celebrated by the fans in the arena. I should stipulate first, but like the two that were getting the repeat, Danny, JoJo, names were just being chanted constantly today, and like to me that feels so good because it means we are. Hopefully achieving a little bit of one of our goals, and it tells me that we're moving in the right direction, that we have made a wise choice. But I do think part of that is born out of what the last 2.5 years kind of threw at us. So
I have a good segue here, but before we get to that,
okay,
can you give yourself like an Immortals letter grade on how you all an Immortals Progressive sponsored
a letter grade on what specifically?
You mentioned partway through that answer about leveling up the LCS, and you had to have all these difficult conversations. About how to go from COVID to we're back in studio. We have to make this great. We have to come up with some compelling things, and we have to be entertainers, and we have to be high quality, and we're going to do a completely different studio setup.
Yeah.
So just a split wide
for the whole the LCS,
just overall
broadcast.
From January 15th or whatever to today.
So I am I'm a hypercritical person.
Okay.
I also have a really large ego. I don't think that's a secret. A lot of people know that. Like, I'm very confident in my ability. I'm very confident in the team around me. But I bet you most of my coworkers would tell you, if asked, that the moment a camera turns off or the broadcast ends, I'm usually the first person to immediately start picking apart what we do and talk about what felt good, what didn't, what can change. So this is all to preface the letter grade, which I don't want to freak anybody out, because honestly, I'd probably give us like a C+.
Wow.
Which means like, which I give this. I give us the plus because I mean to indicate that we're moving in the right direction, right? If I call what we did in the pandemic adequate for the pandemic, that would have been a C, right? I feel like this spring split is step one, right? And so I would be concerned about the little pat on the back, like, hey, we did an A job this spring. Because every time that happens, it is so, you see it, in sports itself, let alone in sports broadcasts. But the moment you start to think you've done it all right and that you think you've got it figured out is the moment you get complacent. And it's the moment you stop pushing for new things. So I think we've barely scratched the surface in this spring split, moving towards what we want the LCS to be, the tonality of the broadcast. Again, everything from the way we've the talent team changed a little bit. It's our second year with Emily and Raz, Jack coming back in, switching up even just the waiting room set, the way we sit and talk, and that kind of morphed into the analyst desk set because we liked that energy more. So for me, the C+ is just to indicate that we are moving in the right direction. We've begun to pull at the right strings, but there's so much more left in that thread. And so, hopefully summer split is a B-, and and we keep going. But those conversations are actively happening. I'm happy to say that Jackie Felling has come in and really taken things by the horns. Has met with, I'd want to believe, because she was so adamant about it, met with everybody essentially one-on-one across the whole department, and then separately group meetings with different teams for feedback, big sessions, like hours and hours long sessions that we've all gotten to be a part of, just waxing and waning and brainstorming on where are we going, what do we want to accomplish, what do we see as that next decade of the LCS, right? This is the 10th year. So it's kind of a good opportunity for us to say, okay, this, in the lifespan of a sport, this is a new era, this next 10 years. So if we do want to make big changes or anything like that, this would be a good time to do it. Coming out of COVID, you aren't as locked into the way it's always happened, right? So if we want to make a big choice, now would be the time to do it. So again, all to say that I'm very confident we're moving in the right direction. I don't want my letter grade to freak anybody out. Dash thinks the LCS is doomed. No, it's the exact opposite.
All right. I found that very interesting because I would.
What would you have said?
I would have said probably. I think given the increased level based on COVID, and I don't know. Maybe part of it was also me being back.
Yeah.
But I would have said probably B+.
Okay.
I thought it was incredible. I thought it was really fun. So
I guess I should maybe separate my C+ is more about the work we are doing as a team to restore the LCS versus my feeling about the LCS. If you asked me to give a letter grade to how I felt about spring, it'd be much higher than C+.
Of course.
But for me, it's the work is never done. Probably if you asked me and the camera wasn't on me, I'd be D-. I'd be because that's, I don't know, that's just the way I am. I am a person who can both simultaneously think he's the best at what he does, but also is completely unsatisfied with what he does. Yeah. So it's I can confidently do the thing I do and then step off stage and be not happy at all. And I can view the whole product the same way. That's just kind of the way my brain works.
I'm also that guy.
Okay, yeah.
I will do an interview and be wow, I asked all the questions that I had prepped and I'm awful.
Right.
Why am I getting paid to do this shit?
So.
I was surprised, but I think as an outsider, not sitting in all the story meetings, not having kind of here are our goals, or here are the metrics, or here are things that we want, and not knowing all the information, I was thoroughly impressed.
Good. Well, hey, that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, I think that you handled the switch back very well, and I thought it was refreshing.
Good.
This entire split. So, thank you for that.
I'm very, very pleased with how much more shoulder content we're creating.
Yeah.
That's something that I actually think we did very well way back in the day. And I think the LCS actually did better than any other region. And we kind of just stopped at a period of time. And we've revived that. We've dedicated a lot more resources and given the right people, I think, the resources to take the lead on that. And I think we've seen that bear fruit quite well. Things like LCS Answers, they're really simple pieces, but they're so much fun. They add so much personality. And I hope we get to do more of that, other series as well, and things like that. But that has been one really, maybe for me as well as an actor, just kind of a little moment to stretch legs and have some fun, and that kind of stuff has been really refreshing. So
that was, thank you, because we lost my segue.
Okay. Oh, right. You said you had a brilliant segue.
And the segue.
All right. Try and make it work now.
You brought it back.
Okay.
You have segued it.
Okay.
Because the other thing that I really wanted to talk about was the change in content. And I think every single split in COVID, it was wildly different than the split before it. Which I think is not a bad thing, because
Not necessarily.
I think there were, especially at the beginning of COVID, no one knew what to do, what was going to work, and you all kept experimenting. And I think for the most part, it kept getting better, but it was also different and different and different. And then this split again, of course, it was different, and you were in person, and you made some changes. So talk to me some about the specific content that you did, and maybe just look forward into summer and kind of what you're hoping to continue doing. Not necessarily specific series, but some of the feels.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'll jump back to LCS Answers first. I'll move on to some other things in a moment. One of the reasons why I think LCS Answers is so great is because it gives you a short snippet of different personalities from the broadcast team, which I think, for example, the LEC in their rebrand did a really good job of indexing into. Maybe beforehand, you didn't know so solidly who everybody was on that team, but my God, within the first year of that rebrand and all of the different fun shoots they did, you started to kind of pick out the caricatures of each of the people on the broadcast, and ultimately that's what we are, right? Like, we are characters in a show. We are playing ourselves, but most of us are playing heightened versions of ourselves, and we are all unique people. And more, I would like to see us push to showcase those different personalities. You know, everybody should have their identifying thing. Captain Flowers, what's his identifying thing? I mean,
Skarner.
His love of Skarner, right? And everything can almost come back to that. And like, yeah, that's like a really, singular, finite thing. And he is more than just a Skarner lover, but there is actually so much that's fascinating about that. And you see things like fan interactions, people making signs just for him and sharing in that. And for me, coming from my background as an actor and as a performer, I think in esports, even still to this day, personality is undervalued in its value to a broadcast. Great, well done, James.
Yep.
Really selling yourself in this interview.
I was like, this is what he's going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
What else can he say?
I know. Then I gave myself a couple seconds to find any other word, and I could not.
I couldn't either. I was like, it's value.
Thank you for taking it for me. You took the bullet for me by saying it. Where was I going with that? Oh, I think it's incredibly undervalued. How much a personality can bring to a broadcast, because I think about it this way. There's a lot of smart people out there who know a lot about League of Legends, and I can take 4 smart people and put them on camera, and I can ask them a question about why something happened in a game, and they can probably tell me, and they can probably be right, or even not, but they can sound like they're right.
Say with some conviction.
And if they do, but that's the thing. A lot of times it's not said that way. It's about proving that you're right or that you know. And that, I think, has been, and that's, I think, one of the issues of like, hey, it's a really young ecosystem. Most people who are in the space are in this space because they're former pros or they're incredible gamers. And we're still trying to get the entertainment side. We're still trying to fully understand the entertainment side and how do you capture and hold audiences. And obviously the players and the teams are paramount. That's number one. But those will cycle as well, right? Like Doublelift is not in the league anymore. Yes, Bjergsen came back, but he won't be around forever. That's why players like JoJo and Danny are so important, and why we have to tell their stories, because we have to build those heroes so that as the old heroes leave, you have new ones to latch onto. If we don't do that, we're failing you as fans, and you're probably going to churn out. But equally, guess what? One of your most consistent resources as a broadcast team is the people on air. Yeah. And so, Freak has a brand, Kobe has a brand, Skarner has a brand. It's Captain Flowers.
Skarner has a biggest fan.
Exactly. Like all of these guys, right, have, identifying characteristics and people who love them for certain reasons and will tune in to listen to their passion about a game. I don't care if you're right. The most entertaining desks of all time generally have nothing to do with being right or wrong or explaining something. But it is a bunch of people who have a lot of opinions and are very loud about them and are going to defend them, to the end of time. Or they're going to
flip-flop
or they're gonna flip flop or whatever it is, right?
Poke at 'em.
But that is a part of their person. Okay, yeah, maybe Raz gets to be the flip flopper. He's the one who gets to ride the wave of of momentum and whatever's going, the hype of the moment. But maybe Mark is more like, no. It's just gonna be, I believe this, and you can't convince me otherwise. But here are all of my reasons why. I'd rather have somebody come up and say, I believe this is how one of the reasons why LS. This is a great story, right? Why was LS such an intriguing prospect, regardless of whether or not it worked? Because this is a guy who is so vocal about the way he thinks the game should be played, and it doesn't really matter what you say to him. You're not going to convince him otherwise. Guess what? That's the most entertaining shit in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? If you say something and then I counter it and you go, yeah, never mind, you're probably right. Was that an entertaining? There's no conflict. And conflict is entertaining. You've never seen a TV series without conflict. You've never seen a movie without conflict. It wouldn't exist. It is the core of any narrative is conflict. That's why sport's interesting, because it is inherently conflict. And so if we don't match the conflict that's on the stage with conflict of our own, then it just becomes boring. Why are you watching it? I know we're like way down a rabbit hole here, but like, because I don't even really remember the question, if I'm being honest.
It was about content?
Oh, right. Yeah. So so this all came off of but I think that part of unlocking broadcast personalities to go to that point that I'm talking about actually comes from the shoulder content.
Yeah.
Because when you get to see those moments of now I get a picture of who they are as a human, just outside of the broadcast, I think those people then feel more free to step onto the broadcast and put that personality out in front of people. So I would love to see more of that. But I would also like to see now kind of the next step is marrying the two, right? We've got a lot of player-focused pieces. We got a lot of broadcast-focused pieces. Can we get those to mesh? Can we do something? It was a one-off thing, and it was all because of a bet. The Dash's barbershop with Danny, that was just a fun, cool thing where I feel like you got a really, a good 15-minute look into Danny, in that moment. But the thing itself had nothing to do with League of Legends. Yeah. Right? So I would really like to look for more opportunities as well to put spotlights on players across from these personalities and start to let those interact. Because right now they're still a little siloed. Mm-hmm. So what happens when we marry those things and make them look great? Outside of that, I definitely wonder, I've got a soft spot for things like replay files. Because as you mentioned, we've gone through a bunch of different iterations. And so we went we used to have a ton of short form content. Then a couple splits ago, a ton of long form content. And now we're back to a lot of short form content. Again, is there just an amalgamation? Is there some, version of having one or two long-form shows, then a bunch of short-form shows? I don't really know. There's a lot of other stuff I wish I could say right now, but a lot of it is stuff that we're talking about behind the scenes, and I don't want to, until I know it's going to happen. But there's a few, very personal projects that I've been trying to push and pitch. That aren't shows at all, actually. There are other ways I think that the LCS can be more involved. That's the best way I can say it.
Sure.
And I really am trying to spearhead this, right? So, and I think there's some momentum there, so hopefully we can make it happen, and we'll be talking about that stuff soon enough.
Awesome. I will be looking forward to that. One sec. I'm going to double check.
Did you look at a watch? Or
this has a timer on it.
I was like, wow, well, that was just...
Yep.
You shouldn't have told me that.
No, I shouldn't.
Are we recording right now?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, just so everybody knows, this guy goes, hold on. He steps up, he goes to the camera because he's like, it's about to die. It has it has a point where it poops out on you. And I was like, wow, that you've done this enough now that you've got it ingrained in your bones and you just felt it. And then he revealed that he's got a little timer on this thing. I have a magic trick. You screwed yourself over. You could have sold me. I would have been like, wow, this guy is...
I'm very in tune with my camera.
Yeah, seriously.
I have one more question. I don't want to keep you too long. No I really appreciate the time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we could not have done this out in the lobby.
Probably. No, I'm glad we pivoted. Yeah.
This is a different one. And this should be, hopefully it's difficult, or maybe, actually, I guess maybe it won't be.
Okay.
I'm so intrigued. We just we are about to send Danny and JoJo the two big NA prospects, and some other players, and we love them all. But like we're about to send some like revolutionary or some very important players to MSI to play against Faker and Caps.
Well, hopefully they got to get out of the group.
Yeah,
They'll play against Caps.
Get
out of the group though, please.
JoJo said that he said it the opposite way. So now you're going to look like an asshole.
Oh, great.
But JoJo said it the opposite way. Someone asked him, he was like, are you excited to play against Faker? And he was like, well, Faker has to make it out of groups. I don't know if he's going to reach us.
Damn. Good. That's the confidence I love. But that's the confidence he should have, right? And the rest of us should maybe be a little more tempered.
But, you know, very likely they're going to be playing against Faker, Caps, Xiaohu, by the way.
Defending MSI champions in RNG.
Gala, Gumayushi, Flackid, and whoever else.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of incredible players. They're also, incredible top jungle and support players as well. What is going to be the broadcast reaction? And this is kind of a multifaceted question. If NA gets stomped. Because one, it's not the LCS broadcast. But two, I think this is more important. Like this team is more important to NA.
Yeah.
And like the risks that we're willing to take and the resources we're willing to invest and the way that we look at the scene if they do well. But that also means it could be worse if they don't do well. So does that have merit? I guess yes or no, and then how would you hopefully respond?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the answer is in two parts, because our job on the broadcast is to be storytellers, but to be accurate storytellers, right? Like we can't be disingenuous to the moment. So the reason why I say it's kind of a two-parter is because there are also two broadcasts. The MSI broadcast, you are right, is not an LCS broadcast. And so the way that I and any of the other, broadcast people conduct themselves on that broadcast will be with a different lens and a different focus than when we return in summer and talk about our LCS team and what they did at MSI. And I think that's a very important distinction because they could go and we'll play in the hypotheticals. Please don't witch hunt me. Let's pretend they don't win a game, in their group. They flame out. They're going to play 8 games, though. It's 4 against G2 and 4 against the LCO team. Let's say they flame out 0-8. Yes, of course, we're probably going to be critical of them because I think most people, after watching this EG team, do expect them to be competitive in this group. You can argue about the G2 thing and, oh my goodness, what that scoreline's going to be, whatever. I still expect them to be competitive against that team, to put up good fights. So if they don't show me that when I'm there, absolutely I'm going to be critical, and so will the rest of the broadcast team because they have set an expectation for themselves, and they do have a level of confidence in how they'll perform. If JoJo's saying that it's more about Faker, having to get out of groups to meet him, then I'm going to hold him a little bit to that. But I also don't ever want him to lose that. I want him to walk forward with that confidence, put his best foot forward and get out there and play his heart out. But then I still have to do, my due diligence and my job as a representative of the English language broadcast, which is not just the LCS. And I have to talk about the stories of the tournament. So can I definitively say how we will react? Obviously, it's all circumstantial. How poorly or how well do they play will dictate, ultimately what our reaction as a broadcast team is to them playing. But I also think, again, it's important that we apply the lens of context to how they do. So, for example, I'm going to hold Faker to a different standard than I hold JoJo. The same way I held Caps to a different standard than Faker in Caps' first international tournament. We don't give Caps that leniency anymore. We don't give Xiaohu that leniency. I don't give Faker that leniency anymore. I expect those 3 to be 3 of the best mid laners in the fucking world. JoJo says he is. Okay, he might get slapped. He might also show up and slap everybody. I'll be very excited if he does do that. If he gets slapped, yeah, there might be some criticisms towards the things that didn't go well, but really, for me, the story is about that this is stop one on JoJo's 10-year journey. Faker did it for a decade. If JoJo wants to be the next Faker and is going to go the distance for a decade, he's going to have ups and downs. Faker won world championships and then didn't qualify to Worlds next year. Mm-hmm. And we still see him as the best mid laner, the best League of Legends player that's ever lived. So it's not like your career can't have, pitfalls. Bjergsen is another example, right? I know he's not happy with the result he had this weekend, even though top 3 is still a great finish. But he's not satisfied. I don't think this weekend is going to tarnish his overall legacy as a North American great. And so, yeah, I think the lens of context is very important. I'll hold Impact to a different standard than I'll hold JoJo, and they're on the same team. I also don't want to forget about Vulcan. We talk a lot about those two guys, and they're the young NA talent. Vulcan is NA talent, and he's NA talent before them. And so it's really awesome to see another veteran NA talent continue to show up for us and join them on the trip out to MSI. So that would be the broadcast. For the LCS, then I think it's about, again, coming back and recontextualizing under a different lens. The LCS, what we think about these guys. And that's where I think you probably will see us be more positive. Even if they flame out, I'm still going to be really amped on the way that this team crushed our spring split, set a bar, and we all have to recognize that they're still the best team in our league. So what do you want? They'll put whatever performance they put up at MSI, but when they come back, I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about how any other team would have done better. Whatever. They should have gotten there, right? So EG earned their right to go play their hearts out and, win or lose. I'm going to be proud of them for representing our region. I'm going to hope that it's a growth experience if they don't play very well. And I think we should afford them that opportunity to a degree because of this idea of investing in NA talent. And we as a region need to become okay, I think, with that process, that it's going to be slow. Everybody wants to see NA win Worlds. I don't know if and when it'll ever happen, but I tell you this much, it never happens if we shoot down the young pros who are going out there and giving it all and risking their neck to try and make it happen for us, right? So the best thing that we can do from an LCS perspective is celebrate them for their successes, try to find learnings from their failures, but continue to stand behind them as representatives of the region. So maybe that helps you a little bit on how it'll feel when they come back. But hey, I'm hoping for an 8-0 in the group. They smash it, first seed out, and then, whatever. A T1 EG Finals.
There we
Let's go.
Or RNG EG.
That would work. I'm fine with that too. Yeah, you know what? How about EG knocks out T1
in the same
on
race.
The way to facing RNG, the defending MSI champions? I like that storyline.
Or
That's
we could redo what happened in 2019 or
for TL G2.
Yeah, just slot.
I'm also
RNG
somehow we go to opposite sides of the bracket and then
and
NA
then
EU Finals.
Our payback.
I'm game for it.
Yeah,
Let's
our
do
revenge.
it. Let's make it happen.
Thank you so much
Thank you. It's
for
always a pleasure.
sitting on the couch in your hotel room. It was an incredible
Thank you
weekend.
to Ryan. Lovely hotel rooms.
Yeah. It was an incredible weekend. An
really
incredible
was.
event. Thank you for
Thanks
your
for taking
part.
me out to barbecue last night.
Of course.
That was an absolute pleasure.
It was incredible
man.
barbecue.
It was. Raz missed out.
It was really good. Oh, Raz, come on, man. You missed out.
He's in Texas. Hasn't had barbecue.
He didn't have it at all?
No. The whole stadium booed him today.
Oh, I didn't.
We told him.
I missed that.
We told the stadium, and they all booed him. And
Well-
I literally said, I was like, that's the most deserved boo
Yeah.
I've heard in a long time.
Good job, Stadium.
Yeah. Well done.
Thank you again so much. Thank you all for watching. And that does it for the spring split. Check out MSI and check out the rest of the content, and we'll catch you then.
Peace out, all.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.